Hey guys, what's going on? Joel Tavares here. You're watching Dualshockers TV on Dualshockers.com. I'm here with Scott Cohen from Samsung. So you guys actually made a pretty big announcement, tying with Xbox and the One X and what they have going on this holiday. You want to elaborate a little bit?
Sure, Xbox One X is all about high dynamic range, 4K gaming, and Samsung has been a leader in both high dynamic range and 4K TVs for many years now. And the technology that's chosen as the official TV is the Quantum Dot or QLED TVs from Samsung. It has a lot to do with the quantum dots themselves. The technology allows us to really expand the contrast, getting up to brightness levels never really seen before on TV. And when you're a gamer, it's that extra bit of contrast that could be the deciding factor between winning and losing.
Right, and one of the things that I most recently personally learned the hard way, I purchased a TV. I had Samsung on my mind. Went with a competitor, unfortunately. But one thing I learned is that with 4K HDR content, it's key that you know that when you're bringing home that set that it has HDCP 2.2 on all your inputs. So one of the things that you don't get with a lot of the value sets out there is you might get 5 HDMIs, but only one supports it.
Correct, yeah. So for those who don't know HDCP, it's high definition copyright protection. It's what allows Xbox to produce games and the public not to copy them or illegally pirate them. And you do have to have it on each input of HDMI. So, if your TV has 4 HDMIs, it needs to be compliant on each one. There are some manufacturers that can cut corners and just make one the HDCP 2.2 compliant one. But with Samsung, we really went the extra mile. We're compliant across the board. And for people that are plugging in their Xbox One X for the first time to a Samsung TV. What's really interesting is the Samsung TV, if it's on your internet, if you put it on your wired or wireless internet, will recognize what you plugged in, that it is an Xbox One X. It'll identify which input you plugged it in, it relabels it. So if you plugged it into HDMI 1, the TV is going to change the HDMI 1 to Xbox One so that you know exactly where you plugged it in, making it much more simple, once you plug it in, to go.
Yeah, and one other thing that that I noticed too is with gaming in general, obviously input lag is the highest priority. You're playing those competitive games, and basically, milliseconds count. Samsung has been rated, so one of the lowest actually in terms of low being a good number,
yeah.
Right? So the lower the input, the lower the input difference, the better it is. But what are we looking at for these QLED displays?
So it varies, but they are some of the lowest lag times in the industry. Meaning when you hit the button, how quickly it appears on screen, and that's important, especially important if you're online gaming. So in order to assist with lag time, Samsung has a few different picture modes so you can really tweak it, but one of the modes is actually game mode, a mode that's specifically designed to lower lag time because we know the process signal coming out of the Xbox is so perfect. There's not much more we can do to it to improve upon it, so we just send it right through the processor to keep that lag time low. What's interesting about Samsung game mode is you can obviously activate it through the menu like any other mode, but we do have voice control on the Samsung QLED TVs, so when you switch to your gaming system, you can simply hit the microphone and say game mode, and the TV automatically switches to game mode, gets you ready to go. So once you power up your Xbox, say game mode, and the TV's good to go.
And one of the things that, again, I go back to my personal story because I just got the set. I found out the hard way that there's not really, outside of video games, yeah, you have your Netflixes and your streaming services. There's only so much 4K HDR content. I kind of value the HDR stuff more than the actual resolution.
Right.
I feel like it comes alive more. And I learned it the hard way. I was like, wow, I had to spread myself across, Netflix, Netflix, Google Play Movies, all these different services just to get some content. I realized games are what's going to get me the most bang for my buck. With that being said, how did that relationship come about with Xbox?
So I don't have the behind the scenes on the Xbox, but Samsung has been a leader with high dynamic range. And for everyone, the viewers, high dynamic range is being able to show, the darkest images with detail. That means you're playing a game like Modern Warfare, someone's hiding in the shadow. You don't want to see a black blob. You want to be able to make out the silhouette before you see the muzzle flash and die. And then on the reason it's called high dynamic range, it's very high. You can go to very, very bright bright numbers or a bright image. And Samsung QLED, especially on our Q9, which is our top of the line, go all the way up to 2,000 nits, which is a big number, allowing those explosions and those sunrises. You're playing the new Forza and the sun setting in the distance, you're really going to be able to see those highlights much brighter than anything on TV before.
And isn't the standard 1,000 nits? Isn't the HDR10 Dolby Vision standard only 1,000?
Well, they're saying a minimum of 1,000 nits for mastering, so the content creators can go crazy. And what's really great about gaming and creating games is it's done on the computer, so you can change the luminance or brightness levels to be as realistic or unrealistic as you need to be to tell the story you're telling, opposed to the film industry, which is relying on expensive cameras and the right scenery work to get these high dynamic range contrast numbers. So, I think the gaming industry is going to drive high dynamic range much further than the movie industry can, as all the content is created on these supercomputers that really, they know what the final result they want, and it's much easier to get that final result in a computer than going in the real world and shooting with cameras. Now, as far as high dynamic range with TV, we've seen new 4K UHD Blu-ray, which the standard is HDR, so you'll find the HDR10 on there for high dynamic range. You mentioned Netflix, you mentioned Amazon, and now with the Xbox One X, this is what people are waiting for, is high dynamic range gaming. So, QLED being a technology, quantum dot, that really allows for high dynamic range at the extreme level, especially on the brighter side, really makes the perfect match for Xbox video gamers.
Nice. And I guess just to close things off, the partnership was announced that, to get excited for the release of the Xbox One X, that you guys have something special. Is there anything that you can, touch on in terms of what that relationship is going to look like this holiday?
I do not have anything currently to say about what you'll see in the future for the holiday. What I can tell you is, you should purchase an Xbox One X, you should hook it up to a Samsung QLED, and have some of the most realistic, impactful gaming experience you've ever had.
And all your HDMIs will work.
That's right.
I learned this the hard way. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Guys, this is Dualshockers TV, dualshockers.com. We're here with Scott Cohen, and we're checking out Samsung.